Just 3 months ago, I released my DICE deck-building roguelike game, Ribbit Rogue, on the playdate. So today I wanted to go over everything that's happened since then, including how the game has sold so far, and how launch day became the most stressful day of my life. At this point, everything is ready for launch. My game is finished and uploaded, all the store assets are set, and I had sent off some promo keys to people for early reviews of the game. Now, while I was just hanging out with my family, I got a message from one of the people I sent a key to, and just reading the first 3 words, my heart just dropped. Crashing on launch. After some back and forth, I found out it was just a general system crash, so that's even worse since I had no exact error pointing me in any direction. I still had 3 days to track it down and fix it before release, but since I'm with my family with no access to my computer, I just had to stress about this for the next couple days until I got home. Now I have just 1 day to get this done, but unfortunately I have to work, so it's only actually half a day. While I couldn't work on anything over the weekend, I was doing a little bit of Googling to try and figure out where this is coming from. After a bit, I had narrowed it down to a likely cause, which has to do with the Playdate's watchdog timer, which is something I didn't even know existed. Basically, the system makes sure that if it ever catches your game hanging for more than 10 seconds, it'll automatically crash, assuming you're in some sort of infinite loop. But I've run the game plenty of times on my device, so why wouldn't mine crash? So here's the fun part. Depending on the amount of storage a system has, or sometimes even the version of the system itself, load times are not the same. On my device, it took about 9 seconds to load, so I could easily see the variance pushing this over the limit, and it definitely seemed like it was the cause of the crash. Alright, so why is this game taking so long to load in the first place? Well, in my infinite wealth of developer knowledge, I wanted to make sure the game ran smoothly, so I decided to load all the assets up front to prevent any hiccups during gameplay. Did the game need this? No, but I still implemented the preloading anyway, and it's a great lesson to not worry about optimization until you actually need it. Well, it's definitely not a difficult thing to fix, but I have almost 700 files that I need to manually go through and convert each one and make sure that their assets are loaded dynamically at runtime. By the time I converted all those files, it was a bit after 2 AM, so I loaded it on my device, ran a quick test, and the load time was down to about 4.5 seconds, so that was a big improvement. I jumped back into a run, beat a couple battles, and everything seemed to be running fine, so I zipped up the game, sent it off to Panic to have them update the build, and went to bed feeling pretty exhausted. So now it's finally release day, but I still have to go into my job, so I'll have something to do to keep my mind off the game until it releases at 1 PM. The tutorial works, but trying to start a new run crashes the game. Great. So now the game's unplayable for some other reason, and I'm stuck at work with no way to fix anything. The only reason this is happening too is because when I was testing it last night, I was continuing an existing run instead of starting a new one, so I never ran into this. I was panicking for a while figuring out what to do. Then I remembered my wife was home taking a sick day, so she had access to my computer. The only problem was she has no idea how to code. That didn't really matter though, because this had to be fixed as soon as possible. I ended up pulling up the GitHub repository on my phone, trying to find the bug. Then I called her and walked her through the process of navigating the project and fixing the issue. I had her build the game and upload it, and fingers crossed, we're good for now. What even was the bug? Well, it was a typo stemming from the resource loading rewrite, which of course Lua doesn't catch until runtime. Now, just because the game's uploaded, it isn't actually in effect until someone at Panic manually pushes it, and they're 3 hours behind, so I had to wait a bit until they started their workday. I was worried they wouldn't see it in time, but luckily I got an email at noon, just an hour before the launch, that it was ready to go, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. Now I can just wait for the launch with a little better peace of mind. getting better, but it crashed when I tried to go into a shop. Now I was really in panic mode. I had to quickly find the bug and call my wife to walk her through it again, and a new build went live just 20 minutes after launch. To save you from the repetitiveness, this happened about 4 more times over the rest of the workday. But this time, it was players who actually bought the game reporting in these issues. And all of them were the same thing, just different typos from the last minute change. It was the most stressed I've ever been, and I definitely learned my lesson to always take off work on release day. Over the next few days, there were a couple other bug reports, but definitely a lot less than the first day. One thing I will say as a big props to the Playdate community is that when dealing with all these crashes, nobody was ever really angry and everybody was very understanding about everything. Luckily, the game auto-saves, so when dealing with crashes, players really wouldn't lose much progress, so that was good at least. Now I thought I would take a break from the game after finishing bugs, but people were requesting some additional features, so I spent the next couple weeks working on some new things. The first thing you'll notice is the menu has a nice redesign, and you can actually navigate through these options using the crank. This game actually supports achievements now, which uses a community-made achievement framework for the Playdate that was released pretty soon after the game launched. The other thing is daily runs, which work on a new seeded run every day. The other main changes were extra and easier ways to view information about the dice, ability, and relics during the run. After all these changes, I did end up taking a break from new updates, just fixing any bugs that came up. But for the most part, the game's been in a pretty stable state recently. Now, we can get into the numbers. How has the game sold so far after 3 months? Well, in total, the game has sold 1,022 copies, which totals to $8,232.58 in gross revenue. This number's nice and all, but that's definitely not what I received. $545.62 of that was just sales tax, and then came the 25% cut to Panic, leaving me with a nice $5,760.96. Well, we're still not actually at the final number yet, since we have to take into account the fees that Stripe takes from processing payments, which leaves me with the final $5,186.16 that hit my bank account. And this still isn't the profit though, because we have to factor in the fact that I spent about $1,000 total on the art and music for the game, and then there's the tax I'll have to pay, which leaves me with about $3,400 of actual profit. So was this game a success? Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. If you break it down into an hourly wage, then obviously no, I would have been working for an illegally low wage. If you're familiar with the difficulty of releasing a game on a platform like Steam, on the other hand, where over 50% of all games published don't ever reach $1,000 in revenue, then this was a huge success, and I'm really happy with this number. The Playdate is a much, much smaller market, but that also means you get a lot more visibility for your game, which makes getting noticed a lot easier. I also don't think that this game has reached its earning potential. Even though the daily sales rate has slowed down to about 1 to 3 a day, about a quarter of all my sales came from when I put the game on sale a couple weeks ago, and I still have over 850 outstanding wishlists for the game. The main thing though is that earning money wasn't really the main goal. I just wanted to try and recoup what I spent and make a game that people enjoy. Reception so far has been really good, and I've gotten a lot of messages and comments from people who've enjoyed the game. This brings me to what happens next for Ribbit Rogue. I've received some questions in the past if it'll ever be coming to Steam, and I've thought about the idea of doing a full port of the game, but I really would like to know if people would be interested in that. If you are interested in playing the game and you don't have a Playdate, or you just would like the ability to play it on PC, please leave a comment and let me know you're interested. If I did do a port, I'm thinking it would be almost a deluxe version of the game, so there would be a lot more work than just moving it to PC, so I just wanted to gauge the interest of people in that. While the launch day was a bit rocky, which again, big shout out to my wife for being a trooper that day and helping it go at least a little bit smoother, Basically, everything after that has been great, and gone way better than I could have asked for. I had a lot of anxiety leading up to release, as this has been 4 years of hard work, so I've just been extremely happy to see people playing and enjoying the game. Thank you to everyone who watched and followed along with the series. I think that these videos definitely helped a lot with the visibility and interest of the game, and helped make the launch a lot more successful, so I can't thank you enough for that. If you are interested in the game and you haven't gotten it yet, there'll be links in the description to the catalog version, so feel free to go check that out.